Hello, and welcome to This Week in James City County. I'm your host, Renee Dolman. Today, we are once again joined by Sara Ruch, James City County's Emergency Manager. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, how are you, Renee?
I am great. As always, it's great to see you, but it just sometimes means that, we're getting ready to hit an exciting time. And
Yes, for sure. So September is National Preparedness Month.
Yay!
Which coincides with the height of hurricane season, which normally happens somewhere around like September 16th or so. I know we've had, knock on wood, a fairly quiet hurricane season this year, but just because it's been quiet so far doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stay that way. And currently, the Atlantic seems to be picking up activity. There's several potential storms that are trying to organize themselves down there and things. So, it's always a good time to prepare. And we are partnering with several of the other county departments because Parks and Rec holds several fun events in September. So you can come and see us at Drool in the Pool. We'll have preparedness information for you and your pets. We will also have information on how you can help us or you can volunteer for our community animal response team. People that join get pet CPR and first aid training for pets. We are holding a class for that sometime towards the end of October because I have to get done with a CERT class first before we can do that one. And then, so we'll be at Drool in the Pool. So I'm super excited. I'm still trying to convince my cute and adorable Yorkshire Terrier that she needs to come with. So it might be me and Lily, or it might just be me. We'll see how the weather goes. If it's a little too hot, she's getting finicky in her old age. So I don't bring her out as much anymore. But
now, Sara, I have to ask because I know Lily has some clothes. Does Lily have a swimsuit?
Yes, she does.
Of course she does.
did. You believe this or not, I did not buy the swimsuit though, Renee. It was from one of my friends when they found out I had her and I moved to a place where I was right across the street from the pool.
Perfect.
They bought the swimsuit, except you're not supposed to take a dog in chlorinated pool. Like there's a whole thing with it.
Right.
That's why Drool in the Pool is so great because they, level down whatever you're not supposed to have in the pool so the dogs can go swimming. So so Lily does have a swimsuit. We'll see. Last time I brought her to Drool in the Pool several years ago, she was not a happy puppy because she's not a huge fan of water and she did not like the idea of swimming. But we might try it again, and this time I'll have my camera ready.
Oh, that's awesome.
We'll see. Awesome. So super excited for that. So I would love for people to come out and learn some more about pet preparedness. Hoping I'll have some stuff to give away, maybe some good prizes or something if the mail if it comes soon. I ordered stuff, so we'll see how that goes. Other than that, I always have handouts and things for people, but hoping to have some good giveaways as well. We will be participating in the Harvest Festival, which is the following weekend. So we will have all of our general emergency management preparedness stuff, especially focused on kids and coloring and sticker books and those sorts of things, and maybe some fun new games. So that would be great if people stop by and saw us there as well. We are, again, partnering with Parks and Rec for Movie in the Park on September 23rd. They allowed us to pick the movie. When we normally partner with us, they normally allow us to pick the movie. Our first year was The Wizard of Oz, and then I think we did Frozen one year. And then COVID hit and there wasn't that for a while. But now our movie for this year is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So if anybody's wondering why that movie was picked, we try to do some sort of weather theme. And again, if you come out and stop by and see us, we will probably have some prizes or giveaways or something for people, along with a lot of preparedness information. So super excited about that. Later on past that, we'll be doing Boo Bash. We'll be handing out stuff there. And then fire department hasn't said anything about their normal fire open house thing, but I believe they'll be doing that in October as well. So we will be out and about, hopefully trying to reach a lot of people and get everybody prepared for hurricanes or other sort of disasters that might come, because once we get out of hurricane season, it's winter weather. So, and there's always something to talk about there, but I'm sure that'll be another podcast. So I will continue with my hurricane speech. Things people can do for hurricanes. First of all, know your risk. I know we went over this last time at the beginning of hurricane season, Renee, but I thought it would be worth doing again. If they go to the county property website and they scroll all the way down to, well, they enter their property information. So you get past that page, you hit submit, scroll down to the emergency management section. There's a section that is called hurricane evacuation zones. So you can look and see if your house is in one. And then if so, make appropriate plans to go, to a friend's house or whatever you plan on doing. Again, you just need to get out of the zone. You don't need to go to Richmond or, we're lucky enough in James City County that there are a lot of areas that are higher that should not flood. I hate to say will not flood, but should not flood. And people would be fine in. So, go to a family, neighbor, etc., or not neighbor, friends or family. And then, make a plan. As always, we will have, if necessary, shelters open. But again, I'm sure people are really sick of this, but I really love the story. It's a lifeboat. It's not a cruise ship. So we try to accommodate everybody's needs and make it as pleasant as possible. But again, it would be, in my opinion, more comfy to stay with someone that's outside of whatever zone ends up being evacuated rather than in a shelter. So just a thought. So know your zone, make your plan, figure out where you're going to go. We have lots of information and planning activities, worksheets, etc., that we will have at all of these events that I mentioned earlier. You can come and pick up some of those to help you start making your plan. We're also more than happy to talk you through if you have any questions or concerns, or a gap in your plan and you're trying to think of a creative way to fill it. So we're happy with doing all of that. Just in general, know, the difference between a watch and a warning. We've kind of been over this before. So a watch, like the taco, I love this one. I don't know who came up with it, but a watch is you have all of your taco ingredients ready for Taco Tuesday. Everything's set out, it's ready to go. Well, a warning is when the taco is actually put together. So, so this is the difference between a watch and a warning. All the conditions are right and the stuff's there, but nothing has really come together yet. And then a warning is when stuff comes together. And thankfully with hurricanes, we normally get a couple days warning beforehand. So on that level, it is one of the better storms because you do get some additional time to prepare your home. Those with any access and functional needs, again, need to take into consideration that when they're planning or making their kit, if they need, additional meds or some adaptive equipment. Personally, for myself, I always make sure that I have my pair of glasses with me because I wear contacts normally. So you don't have to necessarily have, I think when people hear adaptive equipment, you might think like a walker or a cane or something. But, adaptive equipment is anything that you use that you need in order to function daily. So for me, I'm blind as bat without my glasses or my contacts. So I need to make sure that I have those as part of my kit, along with, we're now suggesting 5 days of food and water. And this came out of the storm several years back where FEMA was they were overwhelmed with several hurricanes back to back, and they said it was going to be longer to get stuff to places. So suggesting 5 days of food and water for you and your animals. making sure that if you have little ones, you have enough formula or baby food or, whatever other special diapers, whatever other special needs they have, making sure that that's in your kit as well. And then also get your home ready. I know it's not a fun job, but cleaning out gutters can be very helpful. And making sure, just doing a quick survey of around your house and making sure there's no dead trees, or maybe there's a big dead branch off of a tree that could fall and hit your home. And if you need to, if you would like a professional assessment, you can definitely call one of our wonderful tree companies that we have here in the county and ask them to come out and do an assessment for you. Thankfully, James City County does not have a whole bunch of evacuation or evacuation or hurricane storm surge zones. So one of our larger threats is actually the trees falling into people's homes. So make sure that you have that you're looking at the trees from that perspective, and they are gorgeous and they are beautiful. However, the oak tree that's been in the backyard for 50 years might not necessarily be as sturdy as it once was. So it never hurts to check it out. Make sure that now that fall's coming, I know a lot of people sometimes take all their patio furniture off or stack it in the corner or something of their deck or their outdoor patio, making sure that's secured so that if we do get some strong winds, stuff isn't blowing around like the random trampoline that likes to go floating down the neighborhood that you always see. So make sure that stuff's either taken down or put away before a hurricane.
Sarah, if we could, real quick, I'm sorry, I want to go back to the trees.
Sure.
My husband and I were watching some show this weekend. It's where people go and look at different houses and then decide which one they're going to buy. Well, this couple goes to this lake house and they're like, oh, look at all of the beautiful trees that are there. And my husband and I are both sitting there going, look at all those above ground power lines. They are going down.
Right.
But it's just, again, it's a whole, once you've been through it.
Yeah.
You don't forget that kind of stuff. So while it's been a while, you can always talk to neighbors that have been around for longer. And we have a lot of trees and a lot of above ground power lines. So keep an eye on that for sure.
Yep. This is a fun new one that I just saw added. It's called Get Tech Ready. So it's keep your cell phone charged when you know there's a hurricane is forecasted. Purchase backup charging devices to power your electronics, whether it's a tablet or, a lot of the laptop computers now can be charged off. I mean, like, there's so many ways to stay connected now compared to, I hate to say this, when I got into the field, there wasn't that many. I mean, like a backup power, kit thing was huge and, like the size of a cinder block, and it was just not super functional. So while we're talking about power outages, they do normally come with hurricanes, or even in our case, tropical storms, because let's all remember that Tropical Storm Isabel was a tropical storm. It was not a hurricane by the time it reached our area. So for those that remember Isabel, which is normally the storm that people still have in their head as one of the worst around here in recent memory, that was a tropical storm. So tips for power outages: keep freezers and refrigerators closed. Keep them closed because they will keep the cold in your freezer or fridge longer. Use a generator if you have the hookups and everything, but only outdoors and away from windows. Do not put it in a garage that is attached to your house and run it, because the carbon monoxide fumes can still get into your house. So that's a big, huge deal there. There's a lot of deaths that come from storms actually come after the storm has passed, and it's due to, people running generators or other sort of injuries that come with storm cleanup or surviving after the storm. Do not, and this is more for a winter one, but do not use a gas stove or oven to heat your home. That is also dangerous. Disconnect appliances and electronics to avoid damage from electrical surge. So when the power comes back on, then that's the time to start plugging stuff in, and hopefully, you won't have to have, like replace your TV or something if you got a big, huge electrical surge when the power came back on. So have alternative plans for refrigerating medicine or using power dependent medical devices. So whether that's, buying a small little portable generator to power some of that. Some of these battery packs now are pretty impressive. I just don't know enough about wheelchairs that, automatic wheelchairs, or I can't even think of what they're called right now, but the wheelchairs that run on batteries, battery powered wheelchairs. To know if one of those battery pack things would be, big enough to charge it for a day or two. And then if you do have some mobility issues and you do rely on something that is electrically dependent, like a electrical wheelchair, make sure that you have a secondary or a backup, something that doesn't rely on electricity, unless you have those extra batteries and those sorts of things. So for a wheelchair, it would be electrical wheelchair, it would be having a manual wheelchair. So something like that.
And Sarah, that is a really good point. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I've never, because it's not my situation yet, someday maybe down the road, but I've never thought about, the need for backup for medical, you think of dialysis and things like that, but even for just day-to-day use of running around. So that was a really good tip.
Yeah. Thank you. I try to come up with some good ones occasionally. I do repeat myself quite frequently, but I do like to add in an occasional new one.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so preparing for power outages, so this is something that you could do beforehand. I mean, we don't have to, you don't know when the power is going to go out. I mean, like a month or two ago, we had a storm come through and a good chunk of the county lost power for a while. So better to do it sooner rather than later. Make sure that you go around your house and figure out what items you really need to have power to. And then you can figure out some way, and I'm not talking about I need to watch my TV. It's along the lines of if you have an at-home dialysis machine, or the electrical wheelchair issue, or knowing or talking to your doctor or pharmacist about how long, if I have refrigerated medicine, how long can that refrigerated medicine, how long is it good for, and what temp, what's the temp that it needs to be at for it to still be good, or once it falls below a certain temp, then I have maybe a week or 2 weeks to use it. So talk to your pharmacist or doctor about that beforehand. And, you can always do a cooler and some cooler bags or something if you're afraid of, if you have those situations with medicine. So food storage. This is a tough one. I know a lot of us, or at least me, I wasn't a huge food storage person until COVID hit. And then I wasn't going out as often. So now my freezer is rather full and I'm working on whittling it down. But for food storage, make sure that you monitor, and not by opening the door, but monitor the temp that's in there if you do take something out of it. If you happen to be away, a good trick that I learned a while ago from the health department was, or from a person at the health department, was before you leave, so let's say you're going to evacuate somewhere, you take an ice cube tray, or you take one of your ice cube trays that you have right now that's in the freezer and it's frozen, and you stick a quarter on top of one of the cubes. If by the time you come back, that quarter is at the bottom of that ice cube tray, that means that your freezer was warm enough, long enough to melt the ice cube, and the food in there is no longer, it should not be eaten. with that being said, freezers could, if you happen to come back a little later and the ice cube tray is still frozen, but the quarter is frozen at the bottom of the ice cube tray, again, still it's at the bottom of the ice cube tray, you need to toss the stuff that's in the freezer. And I know, or at least I heard around here, it was either the winter storm or Hurricane Isabel. There were lots of fun barbecues that went on after the storm because everybody was getting rid of everything that was in the freezers. So there is an upside to losing your power, and some good community get-togethers if you have to get rid of some of it and you're afraid it's going to go bad, because you can kind of tell. And then make sure you have carbon monoxide detectors with battery backup, especially if you're going to be using those generators or other items, that might somehow produce or send carbon monoxide into your home. And going back to the food, when in doubt, throw it out. It's not worth it. I know food is expensive, especially nowadays. I mean, food prices have gone up, but it's also expensive to end up in the hospital for a couple days because you caught, some food poisoning or something that was also that would also be very expensive. So that's what I got for electricity. Now that we've talked about all the expensive stuff, I did do some research this time because I feel like I'm constantly telling people to buy stuff and you need this and you need that, and it's really expensive to buy this or that. So what can we do on a budget? There's several things that you can do that do not require a whole lot of money, or ways of incorporating your planning for your kit and food items for the kit when you're going about your normal day-to-day business. So the first one, as I mentioned before, know what disasters normally hit your area. Does your house flood? Are there those tall trees around? Is there only one way in and out of your community? If there's only one way in and out of your community, you need to plan for that, because it might take the fire department or VDOT or whoever, and I say fire department because if there's an emergency, they will cut through the tree to get to the house. It's just going to take them longer to do that, or a contractor to come through and cut down the tree. So cut through the tree that's over the road. So just plan for that. So there might be a time when people, the fire department, etc., can't get to you for a while, or you might not be able to get out, and you need to be able to plan for that. Create your emergency communications plan. So let your loved ones know if you're planning on evacuating. And if so, I'm going to evacuate because I'm in a Category 2 storm surge zone. So I'm going to go to my friend Lisa's house, and that's where I'm going to be. So if the power goes out, your cell phone dies or whatever, your family has a general idea of where you're at. Give them the address beforehand, so they're not as worried. And then make sure, especially if you're a parent with kids, make sure that you have a communications plan if something were to happen during, school hours, or when you might be at work and the kids might be at school or daycare, and where you might meet up, or what you're going to do, if you're going to pick them up from school or daycare, or how that's going to work. Make sure you store important phone numbers on a sheet of paper. I am personally so reliant on the cell phone. I know my phone number, my personal phone number, my work cell phone number, and I still remember my home phone number from when I was in Minnesota. Those are the 3 phone numbers I know. I currently don't even have my parents' cell phone number memorized, and the Minnesota number where I grew up would not help me at all because they now live in Myrtle Beach. So make sure you have all important phone numbers. So your doctor, your friends and family, anybody else that you might need, make sure you have it written down somewhere. Preferably with all of your other important documents. So like a copy of your homeowner's insurance policy, or at least the policy number written down somewhere. We always suggest that, especially during Preparedness Month, since it's around the height of hurricane season, take pictures of your house, inside your house. I mean, you can take pictures outside too, but like inside your house of what stuff you have, because that will be, if something does happen and you have to make an insurance claim, you have documentation of the stuff that you had beforehand. You have documentation of what your house looked like beforehand. You had hardwood floors, you had nice granite countertops, and that helps them with their assessment, if the house is really damaged, or if the house is very damaged from the storm. So that's always another good tip. Sign up for emergency alerts. James City County has our own emergency alert system. So you can sign up for JCC alerts. If you want to go to that webpage, you can do that. Or if you want to call our office, Michael is more than happy to register people. So the phone number for that is 757-564-2140. Again, 757-564-2140. And we can get you all signed up for JCC alerts. Then build your emergency supply kit. And this doesn't have to be something that you have to do all at once. So you could start over time. Every time you make a random errand, or when you see stuff on sale, like batteries were just on sale or flashlights were just on sale. And I just saw at one of my favorite stores that if you bought 3 items for a first aid kit, they gave you the kit to put it in. So stores always have little deals like that going on, especially around August and September, due to the amount of hurricanes the United States normally sees. So they normally push that preparedness stuff. So you don't have to buy all of it at once. Maybe one time you buy a small flashlight. Maybe the next time you buy the batteries. And this could be a year-round, whenever you have a little extra money, or there's the sale going on, then you just pick up those extra things. The water and non-perishable food items. You don't have to, I know food insecurity is a real thing, especially in different areas. You don't have to buy special food to put into your kit. Now, it does have to be non-perishable, but if you have peanut butter and some crackers, and you have, can of tuna fish or whatever, I would put all of those non-perishable items in a special section of my pantry. So then if I had to take stuff out quickly, I could just go to that section, because I know all the stuff in that section is good, and then take it with me, or I know that those things are good to eat after, if there's no electricity and I can't cook something. So that's a thought of how to do that with the food that you might already have in your house, but kind of segregate it. So, if there's a hurricane coming, you got to leave quickly. It's not this panic. Oh, what do I put in there? You already have it kind of sectioned off in your pantry as into what you would bring with you. And again, when you go to the grocery store, if there's something on sale that would be good for that kit, or that section of the pantry, maybe buy more non-perishable items during September and October, just so you have them.
Sarah, if we could talk about water for a
yes.
second. As you know, I was very proud that we set up some emergency supply kits. Both my husband and I have them.
Yeah.
And I was really proud because I went and I bought this 5-gallon thing of water that had like a little faucet on it.
Yeah.
Well, I moved it at some point. Well, it must have jiggled something loose. And I came into work and not realizing that it sprung a leak.
Oh no.
And my office had 5 gallons of water in the carpet. So that is a mess. So my recommendation would be either empty whatever you have, if you have a big container, and I'll just know that if something's happening, I'll fill it up really quick. Or just check it periodically to make sure that there aren't any leaks, because you don't want that to happen to you. I promise you.
It's a very good tip, Renee. Very good tip. Yeah. So, and right now there's also the water emergency that's going on in Jackson, Mississippi. So, I hate to say it, while you did have a problem with your 5-gallon water holder, container, that might not be a bad thing to invest in. I have full confidence that JCSA is we're not going to have an issue anytime in the near future, like Jackson, Mississippi has. But even for hurricanes, if you fill up a big thing like that, or some people have suggested filling up your bathtub with water beforehand. Now, you have to think about this. If you're in a high prone wind area and your bathroom is the only interior room, we also suggest you hide in the bathtub during high winds. So you obviously don't want the water in the bathtub while you're hiding in the bathtub. So, I mean, pre-think a little bit beforehand, but bathtubs are very handy during disasters. They can store water, you can hide in them. But think about that beforehand, because I just keep thinking about all those poor people down in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm like, wow, even if you would have filled up every single bathtub just to use it to flush your toilets, most of that water would probably be gone by now, even just to flush toilets. So definitely something to think about. And again, this can be something that you can do right before a storm. Make sure that you have clean, large containers. Do not use milk containers, because I've heard from the health department that there's no way you can technically get those clean. So, but if you have, with the bacteria or whatever it is that's in milk, just because it's more organic, but like if you have soda bottle containers, like the liter containers, or you buy like sweet tea in the big gallon jugs, you can fill those up with water right beforehand. I've heard of some people even using their rainwater container buckets that they collect and use for their gardens. They were in Mississippi starting to use that just to flush the toilets and stuff. So definitely something to think about, and have, again, just an idea during hurricane season. I know a lot of people like to recycle around here, but maybe you save a couple of those large liter bottles of water where you can drink out of it, or you can use it for flushing the toilet, or you can use it for taking a little bath. And make sure that you have those things. So store important documents like passports, birth certificates, maps, electronics at a flood safe place on a high shelf or upper floor in a resealable tight container. So it can be a plastic bag, it could be a container. Just make sure that the water doesn't get in. I also suggest, if you can, have a jump drive with digital copies. So you might have the paper copies in one place and the jump drive in another. So if you can't get to one or the other, you have a backup somewhere. Now, we don't have, thankfully, around here generally don't have the issue of people needing to go into their attics to escape water. But again, if for some reason that were to happen during a hurricane this year, just make sure that there's a secondary exit from the attic, because you don't want to get stuck up there and then have high water and not be able to get out. That is something that FEMA was reiterating again this year, to make sure that if you go to a higher spot in your house, make sure that you have a way to get out, that there's a window or something, so that you can get out. Which also leads me to our fun fact for today, which is the 1667 dreadful hurricane. So people are probably thinking, Sarah, there has never been a time around here when people have had to go onto their roofs to get away from floods. However, yes, folks, there has been. In 1667, there was a hurricane. I just love it. It wasn't a hurricane, it was a hurricane that came through, and it lasted 24 hours. It began at the northeast and went around northerly till it came west, and then it came southeast where it ceased. It was accompanied with a violent rain, but no thunder. And in the Jamestown colony area, approximately 10,000 houses were blown over, area crops were beaten into the ground, many cattle drowned in area rivers. They were saying in here that even if many people drowned who lived not in sight of the rivers, yet were forced to climb to the top of their houses to keep themselves above water. So I realize our houses are even one that's low to the ground is probably a little bit taller than the ones they had in colonial times. But again, something to think about and just put in the back of your head. And then after that, if that wasn't bad enough, then they had 12 days and nights of rain. So you want to talk about a problem. That was a problem.
I'd like to think that there was like a colonial emergency manager and a colonial public information officer going around going door to door, trying to tell people about this stuff.
You need to leave.
Please.
Yeah, so I really think, let me see here. I'll reiterate it again. So get a kit, make a plan, stay informed. So you can stay informed. Renee does a great job of keeping everybody informed through all of her posts on social media and updating the website. Also, if you subscribe to JCC alerts, that's another excellent way of getting information. FEMA does have an app. I personally prefer the JCC alerts because it's more local, but FEMA will give you information too. It'll just be a little bit more general, and they also send out some messages through that. And I talked about our events and certain carts. And I do have, since it is it's National Preparedness Month, I wanted to talk, if we have a little bit of time, Renee, about a disaster that we don't talk about very often. I don't think I've ever brought it up here on the podcast before. A hazmat incident.
There have been quite a few lately over on the western side of the state.
Yes, there have been. And we do have, I'm not going to say some of the critical infrastructure that we have going through, but we do have some hazardous materials that are coming through either on the interstate or by rail, or there might be another way of delivering stuff that runs through James City County, not to mention some of our lovely private partners. Some of our businesses that make stuff have hazardous materials that we need to prepare for. So just some general tips. The county will alert you if there is some sort of issue and you need to evacuate or you need to stay in place from a hazardous material incident. So that's one of those reasons why it's really good to sign up for JCC Alert, because we can take we can draw a circle, or we can, draw an octagon, or whatever we need to draw for a particular area. If we needed you to stay or if we needed you to evacuate. So if we ask you to evacuate, do so immediately. Stay tuned to the radio or television. Know, again, how to get out of your neighborhood. Is there only one exit? And then if we have to open up any temporary shelters or, places to stay for the day, just like a waiting place or something, we'll provide all of that. If you have time to minimize contamination in the house, close all windows, shut all vents, and turn off all attic fans. Take pre-assembled disaster supplies. So, take your disaster preparedness kit with you as you go. if you are asked to stay indoors, now this is different than the stay indoors order that we had during COVID, where it was kind of like stay at home if you can, but if you need to go out, like you can go out. This is like, if we tell you to stay inside, you need to stay inside. Bring pets inside, close and lock all exterior doors and windows, close vents, fireplace dampers, and as many interior doors as possible. Turn off air conditioning and ventilation system, or set the ventilation system to 100% recirculation so that no outside air is drawn into the building. Personally, when my air conditioner person is coming or my heating guy is coming in a month, I'm going to ask him where on earth that little button is, because I didn't even know that was an option for my system.
Right.
So that's a note for me to do. And then it says, this would be really bad, but I don't know if we'd ever get to that point. Take shallow breaths through a cloth or a towel if gas or vapors have entered the building, and avoid drinking or eating food or water that might be contaminated. And then go to your pre-selected shelter room, seal all gaps around the area with wet towels, plastic sheeting, duct tape. Don't secure it too, because I've heard people securing their room too much, and then there's no airflow into you have to make sure that there's a little bit of airflow. Doorways with plastic, doorways or windows, air conditioning units, bathroom and kitchen exhaust fans, stove and dryer vents with duct tape and plastic sheeting. If you're outside, stay upstream and uphill and upwind of wherever the contamination is. In general, try to get at least a half a mile, usually 8 to 10 city blocks away from the danger. Do not walk or touch any spilled liquids, airborne mist, or condensed solid chemical deposits. Try not to inhale gases, fume, or smoke. If possible, cover mouth with cloth or mask while leaving the area. And stay away from accident victims until hazardous material has been identified, because it is possible that you touch someone's skin with some of these and the contaminant can get on you as well. If in a car, stop and seek shelter in a permanent building. And if you must remain in the car, keep car window and vents closed and shut off the air conditioner and heat. And then afterwards, listen again, and we will give you directions. But if you act quickly, you can, and you came in contact with the hazardous material or hazardous chemical, we will give you directions on who to call, where to go to get decontaminated, etc. And seek medical treatment for unusual symptoms as soon as possible if for some reason something continued. So that was my new one for today. And as always, I'm filled with joyful news and happy things for people to think about.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that sounds positively horrible. May that never, ever, ever, ever happen. But a flip side to that is, how easy is it to prepare for a hurricane compared to preparing for a hazardous material spill? So look, do the easy one first.
Yes.
Do that one first.
There
And
you
then go buy your plastic sheeting and your duct tape.
And your aluminum foil, and yes.
Sarah, just when I thought you couldn't come in with something even more terrifying, here you go.
Got a couple more for you, Renee.
You don't have to.
I want to be Debbie Downer every time I end up on the show.
Yeah, that sounds horrible. Well, then on that note, another thing I'm really glad that we do not have the risk of as much here are those wildfires that they have out west, because those would just be positively frightening. So at least there's that. That's a positive.
That's a positive.
All this humidity that we have is good for something, I guess, to keep that down.
Yeah, so true. So true.
Sarah, as always, my goodness, so much information. So many great things for people to know.
One last thing, Renee. I'm sorry,
gosh,
I didn't plug CERT.
Okay, that's not horrible. You can plug that. Okay.
No, yeah, I didn't plug our CERT classes. So so our next CERT class starts October 6th. And the vast majority of the days are on Thursdays and Tuesdays. There are a couple Saturdays thrown in there, but it was only 2. One's a skill review, so you don't have to show up for that. If you feel your skills are fine, you're fine. And then you can contact michael.powers@jamescitycountyva.gov, or you can call the emergency management number that I gave you guys before, and they can register you, or you can just go to the emergency management website, and there is a little thing on there for the CERT class. Same thing, if you're interested in CART, either stop by and see me at Drool in the Pool, or contact us and we'll get you on a list for that when we do offer the pet CPR and first aid class and other CART classes. We have you on a list to contact you. So those are that's it. I'm sorry. I'm done.
No, that's really good stuff. And it's very important. And for people that it's difficult to sit around and wait for help to come or wait for this all to be over, you can jump right in there and be part of this train group in the community. And it's very admirable for folks to do that. So I'm really glad that we offer that program.
And with that, I will say, if you're afraid that you might not have the time commitment to be part of a team like full time, you can always do as much or as little as you want. Or if you just want to take a really great preparedness class, learn how to use a fire extinguisher and do some basic first aid, and you know that you're not going to be able to join the team, that's okay too. I would rather have more prepared citizens or residents in James City County go through the program than someone be afraid and say, oh, I don't have the time commitment, but I'm really interested, but I don't have the time commitment for a team. So we're super flexible and hoping to have some more people sign up.
Sounds great, Sarah. So as always, thank you so much. We will talk with you again, I think coming around winter time. So that'll always be exciting. I wonder what new fun things you'll have for us then.
Who knows?
So again, Sarah, thank you so very much. Well, that wraps up this episode of This Week in James City County. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please take a moment to subscribe. That way you will never miss an episode. Also go to our website. We're at jamescitycountyva.gov/podcast. And while there, you're going to be able to find all of our shows as well as a form that you can complete, give us show ideas, comments, criticisms. We would love to hear from you. All of this information that Sarah has provided in terms of telephone numbers, emails, web addresses will be available at the end of the show. And if you're watching it on video, you're going to see a screen with all of that information. If you're listening to the podcast, it will be in the show notes. So you will not miss a thing. And I guess I could have probably mentioned that at the beginning of the podcast, but anyway, it's going to all be there so you can find it. So once again, thank you so much. And we will talk with you all next time.